What if I told you that every time you check your bank balance, you're not looking at your financial reality, you're staring at a ghost from your past? That number sitting there on your screen isn't showing you where you are right now. It's showing you the consequences of thoughts you had yesterday, last week, last month. Think about that for a moment. Your bank account isn't the source of your financial situation. It's the echo, the reflection, the shadow cast by something far more powerful, your own consciousness. Now, before we go any deeper into this revelation that could completely transform your relationship with money, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button right now. Yes, even before you fully understand where we're going with this, because what you're about to discover might surprise you, and I want to make sure this message reaches as many people as possible. Also, drop a comment and tell me where in the world you're watching from today. I love seeing our community spread across different countries and continents, all connected by this universal desire for financial freedom. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos where we dive even deeper into these life-changing principles. Here's what Florence Scovel Shinn understood that most people never grasp. You've been living your entire life backwards. You've been looking at your financial circumstances and letting them dictate how you feel. You see the bills piling up and you feel stressed. You see the low balance and you feel anxious. You see the debt and you feel defeated. Has this ever happened to you? Of course it has. We've all been there, trapped in this exhausting cycle where the outside world seems to control our inner state. But what if I told you that you've had it completely backwards this whole time? What if the real power doesn't flow from the outside in, but from the inside out? Your bank account isn't telling you who you are. Your consciousness is creating what's in your bank account. The mirror doesn't create your face. Your face creates the reflection. Yet somehow, we've all been trying to change the reflection without ever thinking to change our face. Stay with me here, because this is where it gets radical. Right now, in this very moment, you might be thinking, but my financial problems are real. The debt is real. The struggle is real. And yes, I hear you. The numbers are there, the bills exist, the stress is palpable. But here's what you need to understand. None of that means you're broken. None of it means you're unlucky. None of it means the universe has it out for you or that you're somehow being punished for past mistakes. What it means is that you've been asleep. Asleep to your true power. Asleep to the incredible force that exists within your own consciousness. Every single thing you're experiencing in your financial world, right now, every closed door, every rejection, every struggle is a perfect, precise reflection of what you've been believing about yourself in the deepest, most secret places of your heart. Not what you've been saying you want, not what you've been hoping for, but what you've actually been assuming to be true about who you are and what you deserve. And if that's true, if your outer world is truly just a mirror of your inner beliefs, then that means something absolutely extraordinary. It means you have the power to change everything. Because if the reflection can be changed by changing the source, then your entire financial reality can shift by shifting something that's completely within your control, your consciousness. Now, I want to go even deeper into this, because this is where the real transformation begins. Florence Scovel Shinn taught something that sounds almost too simple to be true, yet it's the hidden truth behind every financial breakthrough you've ever witnessed. Money is not a thing outside of you. Money is a state of consciousness. Read that again, slowly. Wealth is not something you acquire or chase down or wrestle into submission. Wealth is something you become. It's a state of being, not a state of having. Think about what that really means. Poverty isn't this external force pressing down on you, some cruel condition the universe has inflicted upon you. Poverty is more like a suit of clothes you've been wearing for so long that you forgot you were wearing it. You forgot you could take it off. You've been walking around draped in lack, wrapped in limitation, and somewhere along the way you started believing that this outfit was your skin. But it's not. It never was. Here's where this gets uncomfortable. And I need you to stay with me because this realization has the power to completely redirect your journey. Every single morning, from the moment you open your eyes, you dress yourself in lack. You might not realize you're doing it, but the pattern is there. You wake up and immediately start rehearsing conversations of limitation in your mind. You think about what you can't afford. You mentally calculate what you don't have. You check your bank account with that familiar knot of fear in your stomach, and you call this being responsible. You plan your day, your week, your life from a foundation of scarcity, and you call this being realistic. If this message is resonating with you, hit subscribe. This channel brings you the consciousness teachings that actually transform your financial reality from the inside out. Then at night, exhausted from carrying this heavy weight all day, you fall asleep clutching the very state of consciousness you claim to despise. You say you want abundance, but you hold poverty close like a security blanket. You say you're tired of struggling, but struggling has become so familiar that you don't know who you'd be without it. This is the hidden pattern, the behind-the-scenes reality of why nothing seems to change no matter how hard you work or how much you strategize. The impact of this daily ritual is profound. You're not just thinking negative thoughts. You're actively constructing your financial reality with every assumption you make, every fear you entertain, every limitation you accept as truth. Your consciousness is the architect, and these thoughts are the blueprints. What you're building, whether you realize it or not, is tomorrow's bank balance, next month's opportunities, next year's circumstances. But here's what makes this both terrifying and exhilarating. If you've been unconsciously creating lack, that means you can consciously create abundance. If you've been dressing yourself in poverty every morning, you can choose different clothes. The power was always yours. You just didn't know you had it. Write in the comments, "I'm choosing different clothes," if this revelation is landing for you right now. Because what comes next is going to show you exactly how to make that choice real, how to stop being a passive victim of your circumstances and start being the conscious creator of your financial destiny. The moment you understand this principle, everything changes. But here's where most people stumble, and I need to be completely honest with you about this, because it's the difference between those who transform their financial reality and those who stay stuck in the same patterns for years. You must feel abundant now, right now, while your bank account still shows the old numbers. You must feel wealthy before a single dollar changes in your favor. I know what you're thinking. How can I feel abundant when I'm looking at bills I can't pay? How can I assume wealth when the evidence is screaming poverty at me from every direction? This is the hidden truth that separates those who break through from those who give up. Feeling abundant now is not the reward for having money. Feeling abundant now is the cause of money appearing. You don't wait until you have wealth to feel wealthy. You feel wealthy, and that feeling creates the wealth. This sounds backwards to everything you've been taught, doesn't it? We've been conditioned to believe that feeling follows having. First you get the money, then you feel secure. First you pay off the debt, then you feel free. First you land the job, then you feel confident. But Florence Scovel Shinn revealed that this sequence is completely inverted. The feeling must come first. The assumption of wealth must precede the appearance of wealth, because assuming it is what causes it to appear. This is the law, as precise and unbreakable as gravity. Let me paint you a picture that makes this crystal clear. The entire financial world around you, every transaction, every opportunity, every closed door, every open window, is functioning as a giant mirror. You are not out here manipulating money, convincing it to come to you, forcing circumstances to bend to your will. What you're actually doing, whether you realize it or not, is rearranging consciousness. And money, being nothing more than a reflection of that consciousness, has no choice but to mirror the change. Think about standing in front of an actual mirror. If you see your reflection frowning and you want it to smile, what do? You don't reach toward the glass, trying to push the corners of the reflection's mouth upward. That would be insane. The reflection isn't real in that sense. It's just light bouncing back at you. The only way to change what you see in the mirror is to change your own face. You smile, and instantly, automatically, without delay, the reflection smiles back. This is exactly how your financial world operates. Your bank balance is the reflection. Your consciousness is the face. Every bill, every debt, every limitation you're experiencing is the mirror showing you back to yourself. And you've been doing the equivalent of reaching into the mirror, trying to rearrange the reflection with your hands, exhausting yourself trying to change an image instead of changing the source. The revelation here is profound. You cannot change the reflection without first changing your face. You cannot change your bank account without first changing your consciousness. You cannot alter your financial circumstances while maintaining the same inner state that created those circumstances in the first place. This is why all the hustle, all the strategy, all the planning from a place of lack keeps you exactly where you are. You're trying to rearrange the image in the mirror while your face remains the same. The harder you work at changing the outside while leaving the inside untouched, the more exhausted you become, and the more the same patterns repeat themselves in slightly different forms. Drop a comment saying, "I'm changing my face," if you're beginning to see how this applies to your own journey, because what I'm about to share next will show you the exact mechanics of how this transformation actually works in real time. The mechanics of this transformation require something from you that might feel impossible at first. What you're being asked to do is radical, and I won't sugarcoat it. You're being asked to believe the invisible more than the visible. You're being asked to trust your imagination more than your five senses. You're being asked to become, in essence, a traitor to the state of consciousness you've been loyally serving your entire life. Think about what that really means. Every day, your senses bombard you with evidence. The bank statement shows a certain number, the bills arrive in the mail, the price tags in the store are what they are. Your senses are screaming at you, this is reality, this is what's true, this is what you must accept. And for your whole life, you've been taught to trust that evidence above everything else. You've been taught to be realistic, to face facts, to deal with what is. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything. What you call reality is not reality at all. It's the shadow. It's the echo. It's yesterday's assumption that has hardened into today's fact. The only true reality is consciousness. Everything else, every circumstance, every bank balance, every condition you're experiencing, is consciousness frozen into form. It's the shadow cast by the light of your own awareness. You've been living in a world of shadows and calling it real. You've been responding to echoes and calling them the original sound. You've been reading yesterday's newspaper and thinking it's telling you about today. This is the revelation that most people never grasp, and it's why they stay trapped in the same financial patterns year after year, decade after decade. When Florence Scovel Shinn talks about consciousness being the only reality, she's not being poetic or mystical. She's describing the actual mechanics of how your world is constructed. Every single thing you see in your financial life, right now, was once just a thought, an assumption, a belief sitting invisibly in your consciousness. Then, through the mysterious but reliable process of manifestation, that invisible assumption solidified, took form, became what you now call reality. But here's where it gets interesting. Because that assumption came from consciousness and became reality, it means the process can work in reverse. Or rather, it means you can change the assumption and watch a new reality take form. The shadow can only exist because there's a light source creating it. Change the position of the light, and the shadow must change. It has no choice. It has no independent existence. This is why working harder at the level of effects never produces lasting change. You're trying to rearrange shadows without moving the light. You're trying to silence echoes without changing the original sound. The impact you're trying to create keeps slipping away because you're working at the wrong level, trying to transform the frozen form instead of the consciousness that froze into that form. The journey ahead requires you to make a fundamental decision. Will you continue to bow to the tyranny of the visible, Or will you claim your power as the creator of what becomes visible? Will you keep serving the shadows, or will you recognize that you are the light that casts them? Type, "I trust the invisible" in the comments if you're ready to make this shift, because understanding this principle intellectually is one thing. But actually living from it, actually choosing your imagination over your senses in the middle of financial pressure, that's where the real power lies. Living from this understanding brings something you might not expect, a profound inner stillness. Not the kind of peace that comes from having all your problems solved or your bank account full, but something deeper, more unshakable. It's the stillness that comes from knowing, truly knowing, that you are the operant power in your world. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are not at the mercy of the economy, the job market, your boss, your past, your education, or any other external condition. You are the consciousness in which all of these things appear. If this video shifted something in your understanding, hit that like button. It helps this message reach others who are ready to hear it. Read that again, because it's easy to skim past words that have the power to completely transform your reality. The economy doesn't happen to you, it happens in you. Your job situation doesn't control you, it appears within the space of your consciousness. Your past doesn't determine your future. Both exist as thoughts in the eternal now of your awareness. When you really grasp this, when it moves from your head to your gut, something shifts. The anxiety that's been driving you for years begins to dissolve. Not because your circumstances have changed, but because you've remembered who you are. This isn't about becoming arrogant or disconnected from reality. It's about recognizing the hidden truth behind how reality actually works. You are not a separate, powerless individual being tossed around by forces beyond your control. You are the consciousness through which all experience flows. You are the screen on which the movie plays. And once you know this, really know it, you stop being moved by what you see on the screen. You stop reacting in fear to the images that appear because you remember that you are not in the movie. The movie is in you. But here's where this gets practical, where the rubber meets the road in your actual daily life. You are praying all the time. Not prayer in the religious sense necessarily, though it includes that. Every single thought you think is a prayer. Every assumption you make is a petition to the universe. Every feeling you dwell in is a command being issued to the creative power within you. When you say, "I need money," you are praying to the God of lack. You're literally affirming and confirming and solidifying the state of not having. When you say, "I hope things get better," you're praying to the God of uncertainty. You're dwelling in the consciousness of things not being good now, of waiting for some external change to save you. These are prayers, and they're being answered with perfect precision. You're getting exactly what you're asking for: more need, more uncertainty, more lack. The revelation here is that the creative power within you doesn't respond to your begging. It doesn't care about your desperation or your worthiness or how hard you've worked. God, the universe, numbers directly. Create a stricter budget, cut expenses down to nothing, work extra jobs, send every spare dollar to your creditors. You'd be trying to manipulate the debt itself, trying to force it down through sheer effort and sacrifice. And yes, this approach might slowly reduce the debt over time, but it's exhausting. It's a constant struggle. And here's what most people don't realize. You're doing all of this from the consciousness of being in debt. You wake up thinking about debt. You go to sleep thinking about debt. Your entire identity is wrapped up in being someone who owes money, and as long as you're in that consciousness, even if you pay off one debt, another will appear. The form might change, but the pattern continues. Because the consciousness creating the pattern hasn't changed. But what if you applied the law? What if you changed your consciousness first? You would assume you are debt-free. Not someday, now. In the only place where freedom actually exists, in your own awareness. You would feel into the state of financial freedom. You would imagine what it feels like to owe nothing, to have that weight lifted, to check your accounts and see zero balances owed. You would live from the end, dwelling in the consciousness of freedom, even while the bills still arrive in the mail. Type, "I'm debt-free now" in the comments, if you're ready to claim this in consciousness, because what happens when you truly occupy this state is remarkable. The debt begins to dissolve through means you never could have planned or predicted. When you truly occupy the state of debt-free consciousness, something happens that your logical mind can't predict or orchestrate. Maybe a creditor forgives a balance. Maybe an unexpected sum of money appears from a source you never anticipated. Maybe your income increases and the payments become effortless. The how doesn't matter. What matters is that you change the cause, and the effect must change in response. But here's where most people miss the whole point, where they sabotage themselves without even realizing it. There's a subtle but crucial distinction between thinking of your desire and thinking from your desire. Most people think of their desire. They stand in the state of lack and look at wealth. They stand in poverty and imagine abundance. They stand in the problem and visualize the solution. But notice what's happening. They're still in lack. They're still in poverty. They're still in the problem. They're thinking about the end, fantasizing about it, hoping for it, but they're not actually in it. They're outside looking in, wanting something they don't have. And wanting is a state of lack. Desiring is a confession of absence. But living from the end is completely different. It means you assume the desire is already fulfilled. Not in some future timeline, but now, in consciousness. You don't think about having money. You think from the state of having money. You don't imagine being wealthy. You imagine from the state of being wealthy. This is the hidden truth that separates those who manifest from those who just daydream. Let me make this crystal clear with a specific example that you can apply tonight. Suppose you desire $10,000. If you're thinking of the desire, you would sit and visualize the money. You'd see yourself receiving it, maybe in your mailbox or your bank account. You'd imagine it coming to you. You'd picture your account balance changing. But notice the position you're in while doing this visualization. You're the person who doesn't have the money, imagining what it would be like to receive it. You're outside the desire, looking at it, hoping it will arrive. You're in the state of wanting, and wanting perpetuates more wanting. But if you're thinking from the desire, if you're truly living from the end, you would do this completely differently. You wouldn't visualize receiving the money at all. You would visualize having already received it. You would ask yourself a different question. If I already had this $10,000, what would I be doing right now? How would I feel? What would be different about this moment? Maybe the answer is you'd feel relieved. Maybe you'd feel secure. Maybe you'd be planning that trip you've wanted to take, or paying off that debt that's been hanging over you, or making that purchase you've been putting off. So you enter that feeling now. You feel the relief now. You imagine planning the trip now. You picture the debt being paid now. You don't imagine the journey to having the money. You imagine being in the state of already having it. You live in the consciousness of possession, not the consciousness of pursuit. This shift might seem small, but it's everything. One position keeps you perpetually in lack. The other places you in abundance. One is thinking of. The other is thinking from. One is wanting. The other is being. And consciousness responds to what you're being, not what you're wanting. Comment thinking from it. If this distinction is becoming clear, because once you grasp this difference and actually apply it, the entire trajectory of your manifestation journey changes. You stop being someone who wants money and become someone who has it, at least in the place where all creation begins. The place where all creation begins is in a state that Florence Scovel Shinn called the Sabbath. And most people completely misunderstand what this means. The Sabbath is not a day of the week. It's not Saturday or Sunday or some religious observance. The Sabbath is a state of consciousness. It's a state of rest. It's the feeling that it is done, that you don't need to do anything else, that the work is complete. When you truly assume the state of the wish fulfilled, when you genuinely live from the end, you enter the Sabbath and stop striving. This is the hidden sign that your assumption has taken root. Not the manifestation appearing in physical form, but the inner rest that comes before it. When you're still anxious about money, you're not in the Sabbath. When you're still checking your account obsessively, you're not resting. When you're still strategizing and worrying and trying to make it happen, you haven't entered the state yet. But when you feel calm, when you feel certain, when you feel like the thing is already done and you can just relax into that knowing, that's the Sabbath. That's the signal that consciousness has been impressed, that the seed has been planted, that manifestation is now inevitable. Most people never reach this state because they're trying so hard. They're forcing, straining, working at the visualization like it's a task to complete. And that effort itself is a confession of lack. Real assumption doesn't require effort. It requires surrender. It requires you to stop fighting and simply be in the state you desire to occupy. Now let me tell you something that changes everything about how you approach this practice. Feeling is the secret, not visualization, not affirmations, not positive thinking. Feeling. But here's where almost everyone gets this wrong. When Florence Scovel Shinn talks about feeling, she's not talking about excitement or joy or some heightened emotional state. She's not saying you need to manufacture happiness or convince yourself to feel good about your desire. The feeling she's talking about is naturalness. It's ease. It's the taken-for-granted quality of already having something. Think about your current living situation. Do you feel excited every morning when you wake up in your bedroom? Probably not. Do you feel emotional about having a place to live? Not really. Why? Because it's natural to you. It's yours. It's a fact of your life. You take it for granted in the best sense of that phrase. You simply are someone who has a home, and that state requires no emotional maintenance. That's the feeling you're looking for when you assume wealth. Not constant excitement about money, not daily euphoria about your bank account, but the calm, natural, settled feeling of being someone who has money. The ease of it, the ordinariness of it. It's the sense of being, the inner knowing that you are the thing you desire to be. Not that you're becoming it, not that you're hoping to be it, that you are it now in consciousness. When you check your bank account and there's money there, you don't jump up and down celebrating the fact that the bank is holding your money. It's just expected. It's natural. You know it's there because you're the kind of person who has money in the bank. That knowing, that assumption, that taken-for-granted reality is the feeling you're cultivating when you assume wealth before it appears. In physical form. Write natural knowing in the comments if you're understanding this distinction between forced emotion and genuine assumption, because this understanding is what separates those who manifest easily from those who struggle for years trying to maintain some artificial feeling state. Manifesting easily versus struggling for years comes down to understanding not just what you do during your conscious practice, but what you do with the events that happen throughout your day. This is where Florence Scovel Shinn's teaching on revision becomes absolutely crucial. Every night before you fall asleep, you have a choice. You can review your day and let all the negative events, all the disappointing moments, all the evidence of lack replay in your mind, reinforcing the very consciousness you're trying to change. Or you can revise. Revision is not pretending something didn't happen. It's changing the impression that event left in your consciousness. Suppose you checked your bank account today and saw a low balance. You felt that familiar fear, that sinking feeling in your stomach, that anxiety about how you're going to make it through the month. That's an impression of lack being recorded in consciousness. And if you go to sleep holding that impression, you're planting the seed of more lack. You're commanding tomorrow to look just like today. But tonight, before you fall asleep, you can revise that moment. You go back to it in your imagination. You see yourself checking your account again, but this time the number is different. This time you see abundance. This time you feel satisfaction, relief, security. You hear yourself thinking, more than enough, I'm taken care of, everything is fine. You change the ending. You rewrite the event in consciousness. And in doing this, You're not denying what happened in physical reality. You're changing what's recorded in the only reality that matters: consciousness. This is surgery on your assumptions. You're cutting out the negative impression and replacing it with a positive one. You're removing the seed of lack and planting the seed of abundance, and seeds grow. What you plant in consciousness tonight, you harvest and experience tomorrow. So revise ruthlessly. Don't let one single day end in the consciousness of defeat or lack or fear. Change the script. Rewrite the story. Fall asleep victorious. This brings us to something Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized with tremendous importance. You must guard the sidsai, threshold of sleep. The last thought you think before drifting into unconsciousness, the last feeling you dwell in as you cross from waking to sleeping, that is the seed you plant in your subconscious mind. And the subconscious is the womb from which all manifestation is born. If you fall asleep feeling poor, you impregnate the subconscious with poverty, and poverty is what will be born into your world. But if you fall asleep feeling wealthy, you impregnate the subconscious with wealth, and wealth is what emerges. This is not metaphor. This is the actual mechanics of how consciousness creates reality. The state you occupy as you fall asleep is the state you're commanding into existence. It's the assumption you're making with the full force of your being, unguarded by your conscious mind's defenses and doubts. The subconscious doesn't argue. It doesn't question. It simply accepts what you give it and begins creating from that blueprint. So never, and I mean never, go to sleep feeling discouraged. Never fall asleep dissatisfied. Never let your last conscious moment be one of worry or fear or lack. Always, without exception, assume the wish fulfilled before closing your eyes. Make it the last thing you do each night. Make it your sacred practice. Let the final impression you leave on consciousness be the impression of having, of being, of completion. Type, "guarding my sleep," in the comments if you're committing to this practice tonight, because what you're about to discover is the specific technique Florence Scovel Shinn taught for impressing the subconscious at this crucial threshold moment. The specific technique for impressing the subconscious is something Florence Scovel Shinn taught with precise instructions because timing and state matter enormously. Tonight, as you prepare for bed, you're going to do something different. Lie flat on your back. Let your head be level with your body. Close your eyes and begin to relax. Let go of the day. Let go of tension. Let your body grow heavy, drowsy, comfortable. You're inducing a state of physical immobility, a kind of pleasant drowsiness where you could move if you wanted to, but you have no desire to move. This is the state akin to sleep. You're not asleep yet, but you're on the edge of sleep. You're drowsy, relaxed, deeply at peace. And in this particular state, something remarkable happens. Your conscious mind's defenses drop away. The critical faculty that argues with everything you tell, yourself becomes quiet. The gate to the subconscious opens. And in this moment, you have direct access to the creative power within you. This is when you imagine. But you don't imagine the means or the process. You don't imagine how your desire will be fulfilled. You imagine the end, the wish already fulfilled. Create a short scene in your mind, something simple that implies you already have what you desire. Maybe you imagine checking your bank statement and seeing abundance. Maybe you imagine someone congratulating you on your success. Maybe you imagine making a purchase without any worry about the cost. Whatever scene you choose, make it sensory. Feel the texture of the paper if you're holding something. Hear the sounds around you. See the details. And most importantly, feel the feeling. How would you feel if this were happening right now? Let that feeling flood you. Let yourself become it. And from that feeling, from that state of the wish fulfilled, drift into sleep. Don't try to stay awake. Don't hold the scene with effort. Just let go and fall asleep feeling satisfied, complete, already having what you desire. This practice works because you're impressing the subconscious at the exact moment when it's most receptive, most open, most willing to accept new assumptions as fact. And once the subconscious accepts something as true, It begins working beneath your awareness to make it true in physical reality. You don't see it working. You don't feel it working. But it is. Working, organizing circumstances, drawing opportunities, rearranging your world to match the seed you planted. Now let me show you something that will completely transform how you see every relationship and interaction in your life. There's a principle Florence Scovel Shinn taught that sounds mystical at first, but becomes obvious once you understand it. Everyone is you pushed out. The people in your world are not separate from you. They are not independent beings making their own choices about how to treat you. They are reflections of your consciousness. They are mirrors showing you what you believe about yourself. If people undervalue you, it's because you undervalue yourself. If people treat you as if you're not worth much, it's because somewhere in your consciousness, you've accepted that assumption. If your boss won't give you a raise, if clients won't pay your rates, if opportunities don't come to you, it's not because those people are making independent decisions. It's because they're reflecting back the concept you hold of yourself. Change your concept of yourself, and everyone in your world changes to match. Not because you've manipulated them, but because they have no choice. They are the mirror, and you just changed your face. Comment, they reflect me, if this principle is clicking into place. Because when you truly grasp that everyone is showing you yourself, you stop trying to change people and start changing the only thing you actually have control over, your own consciousness. Changing your own consciousness sounds like a big abstract concept until you break it down into specific daily practices that you can actually implement starting today. Florence Scovel Shinn gave 3 practices that, when done consistently, will completely transform your financial reality from the inside out. The first practice you already know. Every single night before sleep, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Use the state akin to sleep technique. Imagine a scene that implies your desire is already realized. Feel the naturalness of having it, and drift into sleep from that state. Make this non-negotiable. This is your nightly appointment with the creative power within you. The second practice happens during the day, and this is where most people fail, without even realizing it. You must discipline your inner speech. Become aware of what you're saying to yourself. Listen to the conversation running in your head. Notice what you habitually claim after the words, I am. Every time you catch yourself saying, I am broke, stop immediately and replace it with, I am wealthy. When you hear yourself thinking, I am struggling, interrupt that pattern and claim, I am abundant. This isn't about lying to yourself. This is about choosing which seed you're going to plant. Your inner speech is creating your world whether you're aware of it or not, so you might as well make it deliberate. The third practice is revision, which we talked about earlier, but let me emphasize how crucial this is. Every single night before you do your state akin to sleep practice, review your day. Go back over the events that happened, especially the ones that reinforced lack or fear or limitation. Maybe you saw something you wanted but couldn't afford. Maybe someone said something that made you feel undervalued. Maybe you checked your account and felt anxiety. Whatever it was, revise it. Change the ending in your imagination. See yourself buying what you wanted. Hear the person praising you instead. See abundance in your account. Change the impression. Don't let one day end with lack recorded in consciousness. These 3 practices together create a complete system. You're impressing the subconscious at night, disciplining your conscious mind during the day, and cleaning up any negative impressions before sleep. You're working at the level of cause, changing consciousness itself, and the effects must follow. Now here's something crucial that most people get wrong, and it's the difference between those who see results quickly and those who struggle for months. You need to stop checking and waiting. Stop asking when it's going to happen. Stop wondering how long it will take. Stop questioning why it hasn't appeared yet. Every one of those questions comes from the state of waiting, and waiting is the confession that you do not have. But you do have. In consciousness, you have it now. In the only reality that truly exists, it's already yours. The moment you start asking when, you've left the state. You've gone from being to wanting. You've shifted from having to hoping. And hoping gets you more hoping. Waiting gets you more waiting. The questions themselves are the problem because they reveal that you're still looking at the mirror instead of being the face. Type, "I have it now," in the comments if you're ready to stop waiting and start being. Because the shift from waiting to being is where everything changes. It's where anxiety dissolves, where peace appears, where manifestation becomes inevitable. If you're still here with me right now, that tells me something important about you. You're not just passively consuming content. You're genuinely searching for the truth about how to transform your financial reality. You're willing to challenge everything you've been taught. You're ready to see that consciousness is the only reality and that you have far more power than you've been led to believe. This isn't the kind of message that goes viral on social media. It's not trendy or easy or comfortable. It challenges people. It asks them to take responsibility for their entire experience. Most people will watch a few minutes and leave because they're not ready to hear that they've been creating their own lack. But you stayed. You listened. You're still here. That means something. If this message resonated with you, if something inside you recognized the truth in what Florence Scovel Shinn taught, then I want you to do something for me. Subscribe to this channel. Not because I need the numbers, but because you need the reminders. You need to keep hearing this truth over and over until it becomes your natural way of thinking. The world is constantly bombarding you with messages of lack and limitation. This channel exists to remind you of your true power, to keep bringing you back to the understanding that consciousness creates reality. And before you go, leave a comment saying, "I am the operant power." Not for me, but for you. When you write those words, when you declare them publicly, you're making a commitment. You're claiming your authority. You're stepping into the truth of who you are. So go ahead, type it out. I am the operant power. Also, if you found value in this video, hit that like button. It helps this message reach other people who are ready for it, people who are searching for the same truth you just discovered. Your like isn't just a button click. It's you saying yes to this understanding and helping others find their way to it too. Now, there's another video right here that goes even deeper into how to apply these principles in specific situations you're probably facing right now. It's going to show you exactly how to handle the moments when doubt creeps in, when the old patterns try to pull you back. Click on it and continue this journey with me. Don't stop here. The transformation is just beginning. Remember, tonight, when you lie down to sleep, you're not hoping for wealth. You're not wishing for abundance. You're falling asleep.